For Cybercrime Radio, I'm Heather Engel. Joining me today is David Jacoby, ethical hacker and cybersecurity expert. David, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Heather.
I'd like to start for our listeners who aren't familiar with your work by asking you to tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you're working on currently.
Okay, no, that's fun. So I have a background actually hacking in the Swedish hacker community. So for the past 30 plus years, I've been involved with hacking. And that sounds almost like criminal activity. But for me, hacking is, tinkering and innovation and exploration of digital systems. So I've been doing a lot of different things in the past, everything from movies and books and founding companies and stuff like that. But everything has in one way or another been related to the ethical hacking community. And right now I have two missions. One mission is to make cybersecurity available for everybody. So it's not a luxury, because I think cybersecurity is something that bigger companies can afford and understand, but the smaller ones have a little bit of a problem buying and understanding expensive security solutions. So that's basically what I'm doing. I'm the chief strategy officer for a company called Syndis as well, where we try to reinvent offensive security and defensive security, because innovation should be part of cybersecurity industry. And I also think that a lot of companies, they do very good solutions, but they're not very innovative in how they do those things. So we really try to be a little bit more aggressive on the innovation part, like reinvent how we do pen testing or reinvent how we do SOC services and stuff like that.
And one of the things that I noticed when I was reviewing your social media for this interview and many other interviews that you've done, you talk about the need to move away from offensive and defensive security and hacking and into more of a digital inspector role. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, our industry is so focused on technology. We measure how good you are in how many programming languages that you know, or how advanced your programming skills are, or stuff like that. But when it comes to actually building safety and security, I think it's more about controlling that what you've done, what you've installed, how you configure things, how you trained your staff actually works, and you get the same expectations that you have in your products and in your services. So for me, cybersecurity, it is almost like a digital inspection. It's like, I want to verify that the things that you have work as they should with your expectations, and there's no misconfiguration. Because I've noticed that when we, for example, do our technical audits, people assume that they're secure just because they have some kind of security technology installed. Multi-factor authentication is one perfect example here. So people say, we just installed multi-factor authentication everywhere. But the problem here is that you install multi-factor authentication on technology that wasn't designed for multi-factor authentication in the first place. It was designed for username and password authentication, which means that the way they handle the sessions, the user management, is not working. Like, a lot of people use Microsoft Teams, for example. But how often do you think they have to log in with the username and password to access their Microsoft Teams? Not very often, because the session is there on the computer. So when we do our pen test, we look at that as an inspection. Like, okay, how can we verify that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and also trying to inform you what you're doing good instead of only telling you what you're doing bad. Did that make sense?
It does make sense. And I think that's a really good strategy for a lot of organizations who are not thinking about some of those gotchas per se, right? They've been told that multi-factor authentication is going to save the world. And when they've done that, they think that they're done.
Yeah, and it's also like how we communicate about those risks or those potential security solutions. Because, I mean, again, as I said before, our industry is full with extremely technical people that really knows what they're doing. But at the same time, if I would have a client and I would tell you, oh, you have a heap overflow in your MTA, that doesn't mean anything for a person who's not very knowledgeable about vulnerability management or technical risks. But if I say an attacker can execute commands on your server with the highest privileges, that's something that we can understand. So it's also part of like explaining how different vulnerabilities and different threats actually affect you and your organization. That's why I see it more as an inspection than just a technical cool thing. Like, we focus a lot on cool words and things, but at the end of the day, most of the problems that's out there in the organizations are not technical organizations. It is something that you can solve with behavior or structure or project planning and configuration. It's not just a line of code that has to be fixed.
I'd like to dig a little bit deeper into something you just said, which is that You talk often that IT security is as much about human psychology and behavior as it is the tools and the code. What is the one human trait that you, as an ethical hacker, exploit most effectively? And what do we do to fix that?
The lack of knowledge about how security products actually work. Because a lot of people, when they install security products, they talk about all the functionality that those security products have for us. Doesn't matter if it's firewalls or network switches or application firewalls or encryption or whatever, because we just talk about, oh, this cool technology has all these functionalities, but we don't talk about the limitations with those functionalities. So if you buy, for example, a security software, the question that you should ask as someone buying security is, what is this product not doing for me? Because what it's not doing for you, that's something that you have to do with something else, maybe a configuration or training or buy another product that solves that problem. So we focus so much on what things do than what they don't do. I think a lot of people, now maybe I'm going to sound a little bit provocative, but I don't think a lot of people actually know what they're doing with the computer. And what I mean with that is we are the first generation of people who even touches a keyboard. Now I'm born 1981. We are the first generation that touches a keyboard, which means that we have not had the ability to accumulate knowledge between generations, so we actually know what we're doing. A lot of people, they work with technology, but they don't understand how technology works. And that causes problems. Like as a pen tester, as an ethical hacker, most of the attacks that's successful is, attacking machines that have passwords stored in their browser, for example. The browser is not a place to store passwords. It's an application to browse the web. It has the possibility to store passwords, but they don't do it in a secure way. Another thing with password is like a lot of companies have password policies. We haven't taught people how to actually achieve what's in the policy in a secure way. So the policy might say you need to have a capital letter, you need to have numbers, and you need to have special characters. What we do as humans is that we do exactly as we're being told. So we will have the capital letter in the first letter in the password. Then we'll base it in the word, and then we'll have the numbers, and the numbers is always 2 or 4 digits, and that's most likely a year. And if you don't follow the 2 or 4 digit rule, then you have, let's say that you have 5 digits, it's most likely in a sequence, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then at the end, you need to have this special character, and for some reason, we always put this crazy exclamation mark at the end. Because we have not been told what we're trying to achieve. We're just
We're
saying
excited to be done typing the password.
yeah, and like if the system that approves the password says, okay, that's a good password, then you're fine. Then you believe that that's secure. Just you can have summer 2020 exclamation mark with a capital S in the beginning, and then policy would say, yep, that's okay, because it has the length and it has all these metrics, that's okay. But that doesn't mean that the password is okay. So what we're exploiting the most is this like human behavior, like people not being able to interpret and understand what we're achieving, what we're trying to achieve with the policy and the products and so on.
When you talk about humans and human behavior, one of the things I think is overlooked is the number of IoT devices that we are all bringing into our homes and into our general orbit of life. Can you talk a little bit about that and tell us what some of your thoughts are on how connected we are these days?
That's a really good one as well. So I've spent a lot of time researching home, like consumer products when it comes to IoT. We're not talking about operational technology like factories and those kind of things. We're talking about in our daily lives. And we have video game consoles, we have smartwatches and TVs and all these different things. And my main concern with these products is that the lifetime they are actually supported by the vendor is very low. So if you buy a TV, you might get a TV for a discounted price in the shop that you're buying the TV. But that's because that TV is now obsolete. That vendor just released a new version of the TV that they're pushing harder, right? So it's a brand new TV for you, but it might also be that that TV is not going to receive any security updates. So you're buying all this software and connecting it to your life with your credit card information, with access to your other accounts like Netflix account or social media accounts or Apple IDs and Google accounts and whatever, right? And they are not secure because the vendors cannot support all these devices that's out there. So we're building basically an infrastructure of things that cannot be maintained anymore. And that is a problem because how often do you buy a new TV or how often do you buy new consumer products in your house? Not that often, right? And you would
Yeah.
not buy a new TV just because there's a security update missing. That's not the reason of buying a new TV, right?
I don't think that's even advertised. I don't think they would tell you that as a reason to buy a new TV because a lot of consumers, I don't think, would stand for that.
No, I mean, what would be nice, and that's something that I've pushed quite hard, is to have some kind of like end of life sticker on it saying, okay, this TV is not supported by security. You can't get security updates for this TV anymore. Then you know that it's maybe not connected to your home network or something like that. So yeah, for me, IoT products, it's super useful. I have a lot of IoT products in my house, but from a security point of view, it's quite of a nightmare because there's no standard on authentication or updates or configuration. Like it's every vendor can do exactly what they want in whatever way they want it. So it's a little bit of a nightmare.
Do you think that there should be some kind of standardization, either worldwide or at least nationwide?
At least a little bit. I'm not really pro too much standardization, but at least some, like to say, for example, the end of life thing, or like this TV has been developed or tested according to the same thing as we test cars or airplanes or,
Hmm.
other types of products. Like at least do the bare minimum. Force the user to change the default password upon setup or installation. You shouldn't be able to keep the default password. There's a lot of products out there on the internet that still has like admin or admin password or whatever. So do at least the bare minimum. I think that's useful. So standardize those things and also maybe categorize them in different ways. So if you're going to have something, let's say that you buy a TV that you're going to have in the lobby in your company. That could be the attack vector into the company if that TV is not configured in a proper way. It should be quite easy to just deliver like a one pager saying, okay, this is the installation guide for this product. Do not put it on the public internet. Do not put it there. Do this, do X, change password. This is how you update it, blah, blah, blah. Those kind of things. I think that would be extremely helpful for consumers and companies because there's a lot of consumer products inside companies as well. And that's interesting.
What would you say if you had to take a guess, or maybe based on your own research and what you've seen? What is the most surprising device, or what is the device that you would say is the biggest security loophole in terms of IoT?
Does printers count?
Sure. Yeah, we can talk about printers.
Let's do printers then. Printers is nice because they're often connected to domain controllers and internal networks. So they're not just there. Like it's not just a TV in a lobby or a conference system in a conference room. They often have address books or the ability for users to connect to the Active Directory, like the system controlling usernames and passwords and stuff like that. So by attacking that one, you will get an identity on the network that could be quite useful. And it's also from a networking point of view, they're often placed in networks which allows everybody to access that printer. So it's often put in a place with a lot of access. So getting access to printers is, I know it's almost like a joke in our industry, but it does help.
Yeah.
They do give you a lot of information that's quite easy to get.
Yeah. I think it's very overlooked by people. They just throw the printer out there, don't necessarily maintain it, don't look at all the different ways that it could be exploited and potentially were an attacker to get access to it, how they could pivot into the rest of a network.
Yeah, and also it's a place which allows physical access. So for you to be able to get the paper that you just printed, you need to be at the printer. And the printer has a lot of physical entry points like Ethernet cables or USB sticks and stuff like that. So it's not just from a network point of view, it's also from a physical point of view that you can manipulate the device physically if you can get close to it. And it's easier to get close to a printer than, for example, your server room, stuff like that.
So it wouldn't be a podcast in 2026 if I didn't ask you about AI. You've spoken about how digital transformation can actually make us more vulnerable rather than more secure. Every day, we're hearing more about AI and vibe coding and even more complex clouds. Are we building a digital future that we want, or are we just creating a larger playground for the next generation of hackers?
So we're doing both at the same time. And we've done that for quite some time. As I mentioned before, we are the first generations who touches a keyboard, right? So I remember not so long ago, we still had mainframes, we had AS400 machines and different IBM mainframes and so on. And things just moved on to just for us to be able to have this podcast now. And I'm sitting in Sweden, you're sitting somewhere in the US, and we're doing this over the internet. Fantastic evolution, fantastic digital transformation. It's lovely, right? But at the same time, we as humans, and this is where it becomes interesting, we as humans, as Homo sapiens, we are not capable to grasp how to think about risks and consequences in the digital world, because every decision that we make is based on the stuff that we learned in the physical world. So in the physical world, we have one identity, we have one key to our house, we have one key to the car, and so on. But in the digital world, we have multiple identities, we have multiple passwords, we have multiple things. So we have a problem identifying risks and consequences as just humans in a digital world. But the digital transformation is moving forward in such a way that it actually looks positive. I'm going to comment on the AI thing real soon. But when you think about it, today is the most secure day in the history of the digital world that we live in. Today is that day. But it doesn't feel that because there's so much new technology, there's so much things happening, such as AI and stuff like that. But today, just the fact that we are having this conversation, more people are interested in IT, we invest in cybersecurity, we do all these different things, we sell security differently, we integrate by default, we do all these kind of things. But then at the same time, we innovate.
David, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with us on the podcast and share your insights today.
Thank you very much for having me, Heather. Amazing.
For Cybercrime Radio, I'm Heather Engel. Joining me today was David Jacoby, ethical hacker and cybersecurity expert. For more of our media, visit our website at cybersecurityventures.com.